Hello, 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 beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Queer Connections podcast. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Keita, and I am your dating coach and matchmaker. Now, before we get started on the episode today, I need you to do me a favor. Please go in and subscribe and share this podcast with everybody that you know on your favorite platforms, and hit the notification buttons because I do not want you to miss all of the tips and tools and strategies that I, along with all of my guests, will be giving you so your next dating journey can be your last. So let's get into our topic for today. So today we are going to be talking about a very important topic, which is the spark versus the slow burn. As many of you know, I am a matchmaker, and one of the biggest complaints that I get, well, I'm not going to say complaints, but one of the biggest issues that I see from my clients or from, the people that I am date coaching is that they are not physically initially pulled into and attracted to the person that I am sending them on a date with. Or they may think that they're cute, but maybe it's not somebody that they would normally approach. Or maybe they only get a friend vibe from that particular person that they went on a date with. And so today I'm going to talk about how and kind of guide you through embracing the slow burn and really why the spark is a myth. All right, so first and foremost, let's talk about what the spark is, right? Yes, it is our sexual attraction. I know a lot of people want to say, well, no, I just want to be physically attracted to this person, or I want to feel their vibe is what we're now calling it these days. But at the end of the day, all it is you want to feel this pull, this chemistry, and this sexual attraction to someone. But the spark in and of itself is literally like this concoction, right? Or this cocktail of chemicals. And the chemicals are dopamine, oxytocin, and adrenaline. So I got all of the scientific facts and stuff here. So let me read. I'm just going to read through each one of these so you know exactly what each one is and how it shows up. So first and foremost, let's talk about dopamine. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter that plays a role in reward and pleasure in your brain. So you get the same hit of dopamine when you have your favorite food, or you see your favorite celebrity in public, or you have your favorite drink, right? You still get that same because that's like reward and pleasure to you. The second is going to be oxytocin. This is the love hormone, and it contributes to feelings of bonding and intimacy. So here you are, you have this pleasure, this reward, and then what also kicks in is a love hormone. You tend to bond or be intimate with this particular thing that you are engaging with, or person, right, in this regard. And the last one is going to be adrenaline. Now, adrenaline is produced during periods of high excitement or stress. Now, our body can't really tell the difference between the excitement or the stress. Okay. This chemical is very important because our body feels adrenaline, but in our mindset is the thing that determines if it's stress or if it's excitement. And our mindset is created by our BS, or our belief system, and that has been created by your past experiences. Now, knowing that you have this cocktail of chemicals going on, right? This is actually why you feel the spark. And the spark can be misleading because even though you have these things that are going on in your body, your past, your belief system, and your mind is actually what interprets it to be a quote unquote good or bad thing, or to be something that you should feel pulled to, or something that you should run away from. So what I want to do today is actually connect for you, right? Like how we get to using the spark as like the main indicator of whether we should date someone or not. So I talk about the book, The Body Keeps the Score, a lot. And in that book, the author talks about how the influence of trauma on the mind and on the body causes people to be either experience hyperarousal or hypervigilant, which it actually distracts or it disrupts a particular response that you have to a stimuli or to a situation, including your sexual attraction. So I want you to imagine that you're going on a date with someone and they arrive first and you walk in and you're walking towards the table and you see them and immediately your heart starts racing. Now, we interpret that as, oh my gosh, I'm so attracted to this person and I want to get to know them. So we equate that to actual physical attraction, not to the fact that you're nervous, right? Which has actually heightened because maybe this person actually showed up. Maybe you're nervous about if they're going to bring up a particular topic that you talked about in text. We don't ever consider that this heightened arousal that we're feeling has to do with the environment, has to do with the activity that you're participating in, has to do with just generally meeting a new person. Like typically when you meet new people, everyone is a little nervous. But we think because we have this pull and we feel these things in our body because adrenaline and dopamine gets released, we think it's because I'm supposed to be with this person and I'm so drawn to them. So when you think about trauma, if you're someone that has experienced trauma, which we all have in some way, shape, or form, you have to consider that your nervous system might be on like this like higher alert, right? When you're meeting someone new, or like you just have this general stronger adrenaline response that's actually coupled with your desire for deeper connection. So then what happens is you go, oh my gosh, I am so attracted to this person. I really hope that they like me. I can just feel it in my body. We're meant to be together. I'm so drawn to them because this is what I'm feeling. And now all of a sudden you act accordingly. You start asking romantic questions. You start thinking about what it would be like to be with them. You will actually flirt with that person and you give this person access to you and give them privilege to you that you wouldn't necessarily give somebody else that you feel calm around. And it's not your fault, really. It's something where not only do we have trauma and pain to account for that, we have been conditioned to think all of these things, right? Like if you think about Twilight and like Bella and Edward, this dude is a literal vampire. Like he could literally kill her, and yet she gives access to him no matter how, like give herself, like him access to her, no matter how dangerous it is for her. So that's part of the conditioning. Or we see shows like Friends, right? And Joey, who has such a low level IQ, and yet he's the one on the show that gets the most women, right? Solely because he's attractive. I mean, and yes, they give him the role of like being an actor, but he's attractive and he has a good job and he literally has to do nothing but say, how you doing? And then all of a sudden, all of these women are like falling all over him. Okay. So access, and he hasn't had to do anything. Privilege, and he has to do very little, okay? And then, when I think about, in the queer community, obviously, we see Shane has been, like, I think a big representation for us. So you see Shane. Shane cheats on everybody that she's with. And her reputation precedes her. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows, like, she's kind of a scumbag. And yet she is in a relationship every single season. She gets people to sleep with her all the time. And it's like you have this person that is chaotic, right? You have this person that is unfaithful, right? You have this person that has so many issues due to, her own trauma. And yet the people around her, strangers, everybody continues to give her access to them. Knowing all of these things. So sometimes, a lot of times when it comes to how you're going out there and dating, because of the conditioning that we've seen, it's not entirely your fault, right? But between our conditioning and what we're feeling in our body that we're interpreting as attraction is actually not it. Right? So let's talk a little bit about why it's important to embrace the slow burn versus the immediate spark. So I think we can all admit that the spark is fleeting, right? It's not something that lasts a long time. That's why we have something called the honeymoon phase, right? And it's, like I said, it's not entirely your fault. And I know there's so many of you out there that says like, I can't help how I feel. You know, I like who I like, but that's actually part of the unlearning process. It's like, how is it going with the people that you like? How is it going that slowly, with you solely relying on the spark? So you have to retrain yourself, because honestly, your attraction is based on things that a lot of people don't talk about. It's based on social influence, right? You have to think of how your attraction has changed since social media showed up, or even how it's changed since TikTok showed up. I mean, we have a lot more people that are coming out now, or that are bi, or like, they found lesbian TikTok and now they're like leaving their husbands. Like, those things are influenced by social media and who the world says is attractive. It's influenced also by situational factors, right? It's if you go, like, for example, if you go to see a romantic movie, right? And then you're leaving the theater and you just happen to bump into someone, right? You are more likely to find them attractive or to be drawn and pulled into them because of what's going on in your head now that you have seen a romantic movie. Okay. And then lastly, there's this thing about mystery that influences who you find to be attractive. So when you think about if someone is hiding something, like, you don't know everything about them, you want to know what they're thinking. Those are the things that draw you into attraction, which is chaotic, by the way. Like, we keep talking about how we want someone to be emotionally available, but then we find someone that's emotionally unavailable to be mysterious, and we get drawn and pulled into that because we're used to chaos. Right? Our trauma and pain registers chaos. And so you can't say you want someone that's emotionally available, but then go seek that person over there. You're like, I wonder what they're thinking. Or, oh my gosh, we went on a date and they didn't share anything about themselves, but I'm so like drawn to them because I want to know what's there. Now I'm curious about who they are. Okay. Other things like media representation, fashion trends, right? Yes, even fashion trends will impact your attraction to somebody else. Now, I'm not saying you can't have any chemistry or sexual attraction or physical attraction to anybody at all. You obviously have to have that, but it can be created. And that's where the slow burn comes in. So what is the slow burn? The slow burn is actually about building connection over time and like slowly discovering someone and letting feelings kind of happen organically. It's also about balancing what's going on with your body, with your head, right? With your requirements, with what you want in a relationship. And a lot of times with the spark is we just feel this pull or this vibe with someone and we throw out what we want in a relationship for someone that's attractive. Or we let somebody that we have this pull to get away with so much stuff over and over and over and over and over again because they're attractive or because the sex is good, even though they don't line up with what we actually want in a relationship. So a social psychologist found that couples who experience the slow burn their love actually lasts longer. Their relationships are healthier than people that feel the immediate spark. And we're finding that out more and more, right? Like there's no such thing as like love at first sight. There's literally like less than 10% of the world that has ever felt that in their life and like have had healthy relationships. So there are benefits to the slow burn, and I'm going to give you ways in which that you can implement that right now in your life. And here's the thing. You're going to have to learn these things because we all know about the honeymoon phase, and we all know that the spark doesn't last forever. So understanding how to build connection and build chemistry or create chemistry is going to be important in the long run, because you're going to need that later on in a relationship. Like you see people break up all the time because they're like, well, you know, the candle went out, the flame of the relationship went out. And so if you can learn this early on in the dating process of how to build this connection and how to create chemistry, then that's why relationships tend to be healthier in the long run, because you can still tap into those skills later on. So let's talk about how to implement the slow burn. First and foremost, you want to keep dating. Right? You want to keep dating. A lot of people want to get out of dating, but you want to keep dating, and you want to lead with your requirements. I know some people feel lost, like without the spark. They don't know what to look for. It can be scary, but you don't have to stop dating just because you're kind of not solely listening to the spark. Okay, I'm not saying don't listen or don't feel the spark at all, but we have to find a way to balance that. And so one, you got to stay in dating and lead with your requirements. Your requirements is where you bring in the head part. Your requirements is saying like, yes, I understand that I feel this way about this person, but how do they communicate? Do our values and our interests line up the same? Number two is you want to embrace patience. We live in a world of instant gratification. And I know that's like the thing that we want, but it's not a marathon. People are in such a rush to like get into the relationship, and we think that's the destination, but baby, let me tell you, that is only the beginning. So you want to take your time and embrace being patient, so patient that like, if Beyonce herself walked in and did not meet your requirements, that you would say no matter how you felt about Beyonce. Yes, you know, she's very attractive, but you want to be patient enough to wait for that person and go through the no's in order to get to the person that you want to say yes to. Number three, you want to keep an open mind. Okay. Attraction can grow over time. All right. So there's a theory called the mere exposure effect that says that the more that you're exposed to a particular person, the more attractive they seem. And it's not solely based on someone's physical qualities. So they've done like test studies on like universities, right? And they've had people rank the person that was sitting next to them on whatever kind of attraction scale, and they rated this person as being more attractive at the end of the year than they did at the beginning of the year. Okay, and so I think we have to understand that attraction is more than just what someone is doing physically. Like if someone understands you and can appreciate you and give you what you need and communicate effectively, like, I'm sorry, that's attractive, right? And a lot of people say, well, confidence is attractive, but a lot of people only have situational confidence. They don't have that core confidence that they can pull out in any situation and that they just embody within themselves, right? That's why people get stuck with the thirst traps on TikTok, is because they're looking at a glimpse of that person, like a 30-second video of them, and going, oh, they're really confident, but they were probably only confident, like in a physical sense, for that 30 seconds, right? You don't know like what other insecurities are actually lying underneath. So you have to keep an open mind about like what attraction actually is for you and what other qualities can be attractive to you besides just what they look like physically. Number 4, and everybody knows this, communication is key. Now, with the spark, we typically solely rely on nonverbal cues, right? Someone could just be standing in the corner and we're like, oh my gosh, they're so attractive. The slow burn actually thrives on having meaningful conversations, which is what most people say that they want. So you have to take note, like how the conversation is going on the date. If it's going well, if it's flowing and you're laughing and you're having a good time, even if they feel like a friend and they only feel like a friend because it's calm, right? And you feel calm and peaceful, and we are not used to feeling calm and peaceful. So even if it feels that way, go on another date, right? Explore and talk to them more, and act accordingly as well. You know, people say all the time, oh, I want my partner to feel like my best friend. But then you won't go on a date or you won't go on a second date with someone that feels like a friend on the first date. And so this is where you want to use that communication and use those other things that actually draw in attraction, because even though you might not feel that immediate spark and pull on that first date, if you feel calm and the conversation is flowing and it's nice, that's a good thing. So start having more of those meaningful conversations and act the same way you would, take those same actions as you would with someone that you feel that pull to. Give that person that the conversation is flowing, give that person, permission and privilege to you, and just watch it grow. And then, of course, number 5, be vulnerable. And so this is kind of like one of those things where, it comes back to the communication. People say all the time, I stopped talking to that person because they were boring and it was surface level and we weren't having meaningful conversations. And my question to them always is, did you share yourself? Did you ask those deeper conversations? And when I say yes, ask those deep questions to have this conversation. But the big key to this is sharing yourself, even sharing your fears, right? Find a way to have those deeper conversations, but you cannot ask someone about their previous relationships or ask them like how they're growing and you haven't shared anything about yourself. You might actually want to start with that. Here's like one of the biggest things that I discovered, from my previous relationships about myself and that I'm working on. What about you? Right? Because when you can share yourself, you give permission to other people to do that as well. When you can be vulnerable, you give permission for other people to be that as well, right? Now, obviously, you're paying attention to whether that person is really sharing deeply with you or not, because you don't want to share too much, and then obviously they use that against you. But your vulnerability is attractive. And if you're wanting that in a partner, then you actually have to give that as well. So I know this is a lot to take in, and I know, I have this conversation all the time with my clients and, when I do my TikTok lives and I know this is the biggest thing that people struggle with. This is a big adjustment for most people to not solely rely on what's going on in your body, but you have to remember that due to trauma and pain and the way our body holds things in is your body will betray you. Your body is trying to keep you safe. And so if you have a pull and attraction to someone, your body's probably saying, hey, we need to go over there because that's familiar. We recognize that. That's a little chaotic. We felt the same way with our parents. Let's go over here. So that's why it's important to have the slow burn and kind of chill, right? And it's okay to have this. It's okay to be scared, but you want to slowly make these adjustments. So Matthew Hussey uses the analogy of the spark being pizza and the slow burn being clean eating, right? If you're trying to get healthy with your body. So pizza could be great, could be your favorite food. That's where you could get the dopamine hit and the adrenaline and the oxytocin, right? You eat this and it's great. But can you imagine what your body would feel like if you had pizza every day, all day? If you had it all the time? And that's what we're doing with the spark. We want to have it all the time. We want to have this spark all the time. But you can't maintain that, which is actually why the spark dies. You can't maintain this spark the whole time, all throughout your relationship. It's very fleeting and it doesn't last long. In the same way that you can't eat pizza all the time. So if you want to get your body in shape, what you're going to do is start doing some clean eating. You're going to have some salads, and you're going to eat some salmon, and you're going to eat some, like grilled chicken. Now, granted, that's probably not going to be fun in the beginning, right? You're probably not going to like it. It's going to be something that you're going to have to work at. It's going to be something that you're going to slowly implement. But when you start implementing that, your body's going to feel better, does it not? And then every now and then you get to have pizza. And it feels good when you get to have pizza, right? But majority of the time you have this clean eating, right? And you have the salads and you have the grilled chicken and, you're eating healthier. And so it really is about retraining your body, retraining your mind, and understanding that just because you're not going with the spark immediately, like I'm going to go on this person's vibe, that does not mean that you can't have the spark sometimes. I think there are a lot of people out there that you are passing up that will surprise you. They're quiet. They may seem shy, but they're good to you. They open up like once they get to know you, and they treat you right and they treat you well. But we see those people as being weak or something for whatever reason. But you just don't know that underneath all that shyness and underneath all that quietness, there's some spark in there. And they will surprise you, whether that's sexually, physically, whatever. Or there are people out there that just need you to say, I really like when you do that. Or when you wear that shirt. Or when you show up like this, And so one thing I know we have to do is begin to adjust. Begin to implement the slow burn. Begin to say, okay, my body feels this way about this person. Okay. Have I felt this before? The answer is probably yes. Has it worked out? The answer is probably no. And so this is a normal feeling for me. And so I'm going to check that with my requirements. And I'll do an episode on requirements and talk about that. Okay. But when you can start checking in with yourself and start implementing these different strategies, I guarantee you'll start attracting different people. And it's going to feel weird at first. You may feel bored, but that's only because we're not used to peace and calm. We're used to chaos. Okay? So I hope that helps. Please go out there and begin to practice these tips and look for the slow burn. And of course, trust love one more time and always one more time. Love you all. Peace.